YuGiOh101 card review. Here to review a card coming in Clash of Rebellions. April 25th to April 25th OCG, August 7th TCG, and this is Infernoid Terra, Tierra, Tierra, as in the Queen, the Tierra, the Queen. Or at least I hope that's what they were trying to go for. It's a Fire Fiend Fusion Effect Monster, level 11, attack 3400, defense 3600. So I'm assuming they want you to play this card more defensively than offensively, but nevertheless, that's a lot of fucking attack and defense power. Description: Infernoid Onunuku, Onunku, and Infernoid Lilith, and plus one or more Infernoid monsters. When this card is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect, apply as many effects as possible based on the number of fusion materials with different names used for its fusion summon, and resolve in sequence. Three or more monsters, each player sends three cards from their extra deck to the graveyard. Five or more monsters, each player sends the top three cards of their deck to the graveyard. Eight or more monsters, each player returns up to three of their banished cards to the graveyard. 10 or more monsters, each player sends their entire hand to the graveyard. Ooh. Only thing I can say is, man, you better hope nobody is playing Dark Worlds against you, because because if you even dream of using 10 or more monsters against a Dark World build, even though I feel like it's rare that it's gonna happen, still when it does, and I know somebody's gonna do it against a Dark World build, because some people just aren't smart enough to not do it against a Dark World build unless they are really just trying to call someone's bluff to see if they actually have any monsters in their hand. But nevertheless, if you use that effect and you're going up against somebody that has like a good 3 or 4 Dark World monsters in their hand, you're fucked. Especially if they're like Grapha, and I don't know if anybody has the nerve to use it, but even Rainbow, you know, Rainbow. Anyway, but yeah, man, that's a pretty devastating effect to use against the wrong deck, such as the Dark Worlds. Yeah, man, like you could fuck yourself up. But nevertheless, ideally, it puts you in a position to where you can summon your monsters, but your opponent can't do shit about theirs. That's where the idea from that effect comes from. With 8 or more monsters, it helps you, put monsters back in your graveyard, obviously, so that you can reuse them for the summons of other Infernoid monsters. Uh, with 5 or more monsters, it puts you in a position where you can, again, pretty much the same thing with 8 or more monsters. It puts you in a position where you can utilize more cards, except there's more of a risk with it, and you know, mind you, all of these activate in sequence. So if you have like 11 cards in your graveyard, all of these effects get activated. So there's no way to just do just one of those effects and then the other ones just don't happen. It's either when you have the appropriate number of cards when this card gets fusion summoned, you know all of the effects based on the number of cards that you use are going to get activated. So if you don't want a certain effect to activate, make sure you use the proper amount of monsters. But nevertheless, man, a good extra deck killer. Um, I don't know if you'll still be able to use it if you don't have an extra deck. I think you can. I don't think that is going to stop anything. It's just that you have to send. Each player sends 3 cards from the extra deck to the graveyard. I still think that if you don't have an extra deck but your opponent does, I think you're still gonna have to. That your opponent still has to send monsters from their extra deck to the graveyard, and I don't know, man. It's one of those that you're gonna have to tread carefully when it comes to it. You know, it's a good card, has a lot of attack power, has a hell of a lot of defense, and you just gotta tread softly, man. I mean, just summoning the thing, it takes two specifics. So basically, it's putting you in a position where like you're gonna activate an effect, basically. You know, at least three monsters, and your opponent's gonna lose extra deck monsters, and pretty much I think you do more than I would say. Your goal is to get at least eight, but if you can't do that and you're trying to summon this thing, maybe you're just trying to lessen the cards in your opponent's extra deck, then maybe that's something that you can go for. Uh, Other than that, man, I can't really see anything else about it. It's an extra deck killer, basically. It kills your opponent's extra decks and it kills their hand. Again, but better hope they're not playing Dark Worlds if you're able to pull that effect off. But it puts you in a position where you have everything to gain and your opponent has, well, you have more to gain than your opponent from activating these effects. The only effect that comes into question is when you have to use or like when you use eight or more monsters, and each player returns. I mean, excuse me, five or more monsters. Each player sends the top three cards of their deck to the graveyard. You run the risk of losing something, but I guess you can say you have more to gain. Just based on the risk, you have more to gain from sending cards to the graveyard than your opponent would in an ideal situation. So I see what they were doing with that. Other than that, I can't really say anything else. It seems like it's a pretty powerful card in terms of attack and defense. Um, in the who's this? I don't know. Somebody pulled up on our driveway, but yeah. That's it. So link to this card is going to be in the description. You guys can check it out, and I'll see you for the next card review. Peace.